Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, March the 11th, 2020. It is currently 6:06 p.m. Central Time. Well, I'm here at Victory Baptist Church getting ready for the Wednesday evening worship service. And I as soon as I walked through the front door of the church, my mind was thinking, okay, set everything up. I could possibly do a quick devotional message for the Theology Central podcast. Or I could spend some time reading on this, or I could look over my sermon notes. I was just trying to think of the different things I could accomplish since I arrived at church, a little over an hour early for the actual start of the Wednesday evening service. So I got here, started thinking of what I wanted to do, and all of a sudden I heard my iPad, once it connected to the Wi-Fi of the church, it just started going crazy. Notification after notification after notification. And when I looked, it was all coronavirus, COVID-19, COVID-19. What should we do? What should we do? And I'm like, wow. I haven't spoken a lot about this, so maybe I should just take a few minutes to figure out exactly what is going on. President Trump will be addressing the nation, I believe, at 8 p.m. Central Time. I believe that will be 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You may want to check the times, but President Trump will be addressing the nation this evening in regards to the coronavirus. At least that's the best information I currently have in front of me. Coronavirus, COVID-19, has officially now been declared to be a pandemic. So we are living through a pandemic. There are concerns. There are music festivals are being canceled. All kinds of things are being canceled. Things are being shut down. All kinds of things are happening in nations around the world. I mean, there is so much to keep up with. In fact, right when I hit the go live button, I got a number. In fact, let me look here. I don't even know how many number of notifications just came in on my iPad. Let's see, what do I have here? 2 minutes ago, what the WHO doctor says Americans should do in face of the COVID-19 pandemic. The World Health Organization has declared the novel coronavirus outbreak to be a global pandemic. Let's see, this one. I can go on and on and on. There's just notification after notification. Wow. South Africa confirmed 6 more coronavirus cases. I mean, I could sit here and just read all of the notifications that I have on my iPad in regards to the coronavirus, and these are all podcasts that I subscribe to that are all talking about the coronavirus. So it is a subject that we need to be aware of and we need to pay attention to. I'm going to play a news clip for you here in just a minute. I would say this, first and foremost, as Christians, our life is supposed to be built on the Word of God. We stand upon Christ and His Word. We stand on firm ground, right? We stand on a rock. We do not build our house on sinking sand. So we should demonstrate to everyone faith, trust, that we know who is ultimately in charge. It doesn't mean that we diminish this and act like it's no big deal. I think sometimes Christians confuse faith and trusting in God with this dismissive attitude. Oh, all of you are worried about this virus. Oh, well, who cares? It's no big deal. And there's nothing spiritual about that. I think that just comes across as ignorant because there are people dying, okay? So when people are dying, you say, well, they're not dying at this rate or this rate. That's irrelevant. People are dying and the virus is spreading. So let's do this. Let's demonstrate confidence in God, faith, trust in God. Let's demonstrate the peace of God that passes all understanding. Let's demonstrate a commitment to following the scriptures, living out our Christian life. Let's try to offer them that same confidence and trusting in the creator of the universe. But at the same time, let's acknowledge that this is a serious issue in which we should be informed about, and we should avoid at all costs spreading any information that is inaccurate, fraudulent, false, misleading, anything like that when it comes to this virus. Now, if we're just discussing it amongst friends, we may want to be sharing different things and say, hey, let's talk about this, let's consider this. But to just people at large, you want to be very careful what you are spreading. You want to make sure it's accurate information, but you want people to know what's happening. You need to be informed about what's going on. You need to know where the coronavirus is at. You need to take all precautions that you can within reason. Obviously, wash your hands, 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 wash your hands. Do not touch your face. I'm trying to keep myself from doing that right now. And avoid areas, if you know the coronavirus is in a specific area, clearly be careful. And remember, you may think, well, I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm perfectly okay. Who cares even if I get it? Because they say that the majority of people will recover, so it'll just be a few days off work. Who cares? I'm not gonna stop doing what I do. Yes, you may be okay, but if you become infected with the coronavirus, you then become someone who can spread it to others, and other people may have underlying health problems that will make the coronavirus deadly to them. So please think about other people and not just yourself. Think about how it could impact older people, people with lung problems, and all the other. I think high blood pressure, that's an underlying problem that can create issues with the coronavirus. Yeah, be well informed and think about other people. Look out for each other. As Christians, this is a chance to live out our faith in a meaningful, real way, thinking about other people, showing love for other people, showing our trust and faith in God, showing that we have the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, but taking it serious, helping people be correctly informed, speaking against lies, speaking the truth. We can do our part in trying to minister to those, trying to minister to people, helping people. When a major difficulty is sweeping across the globe, right? I mean, you got entire countries are trying to quarantine everyone. When you've got something that's getting this much attention, let's let Christians be a light. Let's be salt. Let's be light. Let's show that we are informed, that we are cautious, that we are speaking, very measured and careful about the subject, that we're speaking truth, that we are exposing lies, but we demonstrate that we have a confidence in God, a trust in God, a faith in God, that we seem to be standing on a firm foundation where other people may be scared and panic. We don't need panic. We don't need fear, but we need reason. We need concern. We need to be informed, and we need to demonstrate our Christian life in the midst of it. I'm just throwing out some thoughts right here. I don't have a lot of time, obviously, on the Wednesday evening service, and people are going to be walking in. I'm going to be here live on the air talking about the coronavirus. But I wanted to talk about I had something completely different that I wanted to talk about. However, it's just, you can't ignore the biggest story right now in the world. Not the biggest story in Texas, not the biggest story in the United States. This is literally the biggest story in the world. And I would remind Christians, be careful, especially do not allow Christian ministries to use the coronavirus and this scare and this pandemic to try to sell, poorly written books on biblical prophecy and trying to scare people and manipulate people. Let's not be evil in how we handle this. I mean, I've already seen some Christian ministries going that direction. And be careful how people are using Bible verses out of context in regards to the coronavirus, trying to act like this is a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Be very careful with that. We need to demonstrate level-headedness. We need to demonstrate wisdom. We need to demonstrate correct handling of the scripture. Okay. We can't, this is where people go crazy, and you have Christian ministries out there utilizing this to manipulate people out of fear to purchase their books on Bible prophecy. And we can't allow that to happen either. I could do a whole hour on that subject. And I've already recorded at least one podcast in regards to that. You can go listen to it. But here is, I just immediately when I came in and I saw these notifications, I pulled up my iPad, hit play. Here's one of the first things I heard. I'm going to share it with you. I may break in and offer my thoughts on it, but here's some information.
The World Health Organization officially characterized the COVID-19 outbreak as a global pandemic today. President Trump will be addressing the nation tonight to discuss the widening spread of the virus. We will be back here on PBS with that live at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The novel coronavirus has now killed roughly 4,400 people worldwide and infected about 120,000, including more than 1,000 in the U.S. That triggered another nosedive on Wall Street as the Dow Jones Industrial Average entered bear market territory. It has now fallen 20% below last month's record close. The Dow plunged today 1,465 points to close at 23,553. The Nasdaq fell 392 points, and the S&P 500 lost nearly 141. That comes amid a new wave of cancellations and restrictions on large gatherings. In an unprecedented move, the NCAA college basketball tournament announced that its games will be held without fans in attendance. Amna Nawaz has more on the outbreak's impact both at home and abroad.
A new global milestone in the spread of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. The World Health Organization said the crisis has officially reached pandemic proportions.
Pandemic is not a word to use lightly or carelessly. We cannot say this loudly enough, or clearly enough, or often enough. All countries can still change the course of this pandemic.
Here in the U.S., Dr. Anthony Fauci warned lawmakers on Capitol Hill about that course, saying the worst is yet to come.
How much worse we'll get will depend on our ability to do two things: to contain the influx of people who are infected coming from the outside, and the ability to contain and mitigate within our own country. Bottom line, it's going to get worse.
His assessment drew concern from Democrats who accused administration officials of responding too slowly.
This administration was not prepared for this crisis, and it put lives at risk, American lives at risk.
National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, speaking at the Heritage Foundation today, blamed China for withholding information about the virus, accusing them of hampering the global response.
It probably cost the world community 2 months to respond, and those 2 months, if we'd had those and been able to sequence the virus and had the cooperation necessary from the Chinese, I think we could have dramatically curtailed what happened both in China and what's now happening across the world.
President Trump, during a White House meeting with bank CEOs, defended his administration's actions.
We're having to fix a problem that 4 weeks ago nobody ever thought would be a problem.
Members of Congress, meanwhile, drilled down today on efforts to cushion the economic fallout.
We need an economic vaccine. I'd like to have an economic package to address the damage done by the coronavirus.
Senate Democrats unveiled their proposal today, which included paid sick leave for workers impacted by the coronavirus outbreak.
The help should be aimed at people, not at corporations. We believe the help should be targeted at the people who have suffered from this coronavirus problem.
And House Democrats hope to bring their version up for a vote on the floor tomorrow. At least 39 states in the U.S. and the District of Columbia have so far reported confirmed cases of the coronavirus. Across the country, cities and institutions are grappling with how to contain the spread and protect their communities, from canceling large gatherings to canceling in-person classes on college campuses. Hard-hit countries like South Korea continue with their own efforts. Today, sanitizing subway trains in Seoul. Infections there continue to fall, but a new cluster of cases stemming from a call center has health officials on edge.
As of 7 a.m. today, 90 people were tested positive, and we are investigating how many people were in close contact.
In Italy, where cases today soared beyond 10,000, all stores, aside from pharmacies and supermarkets, closed in response to the crisis. In the Vatican, the Pope's weekly catechism, normally said among tens of thousands in St. Peter's Square, was instead delivered from a private library via video link. In Germany, already facing some 1,300 cases, Chancellor Angela Merkel warned of a wider spread.
The population has no immunity yet to this virus. There are no vaccines and no therapy so far. That a high percentage, experts say 60 to 70% of the population, will be infected as long as the situation continues.
But in the Chinese city where the virus first emerged, a different picture. Supermarkets and other businesses resumed work, a sign that at least there, the crisis has begun to subside. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Amna Nawaz.
There is word that President Trump is working to limit U.S. dependence on China as it responds to the outbreak. He's reportedly planning to issue an executive order insisting the U.S. use American-made pharmaceuticals and medical supplies, which would be a drastic change from the current supply. While life is slowly beginning to return to normal in China, many other countries are limiting social interactions. I spoke a few minutes ago with Dr. Margaret Harris from the World Health Organization and asked her why the agency is now calling COVID-19 a pandemic.
It's really because we're sending a message, and the message we were sending before is get ready. But now the message is it's here. Get serious. There's still a chance. Many countries have a chance to slow things down, but this virus is going to be in most communities. And so we have to mobilize all our forces, mobilize our people, mobilize our ideas, our innovations to stop it, slow it, so that it does not overwhelm health systems and cause major suffering and death.
When you say in every community, do you mean literally every community, every city, every town, every neighborhood?
It has that potential to do that. So this is why we use a term like pandemic. We were loath to use it because it does instill fear and it does instill panic. Our biggest weapon actually is calm, sensible, rational behavior and application of our genius. We have seen some incredible technological innovations in Korea and in China, and we've seen them beat down huge epidemics, huge numbers of cases, and bring them down. So we know we can do it, but it really does take every human being on this planet taking it seriously, listening to what needs to be done, and doing it.
That's sobering. And Dr. Harris, when you speak about mobilizing governments, mobilizing people to action, what exactly are you asking governments, health systems to do? And can they do it?
So one of the things that every country, every community needs to do is to understand if someone is infected, we need to find them. So it's not that easy. You need to be tested. And then you also need to identify everyone you've been in contact, and they need to be comfortable and want to be tested and be ready to self-isolate. People also have to be ready not to crowd, not to go into spaces, into situations where they're going to be very close for quite some time, because that is the opportunity for passing on the virus. So that means you make changes. You work from home. You give up very important things like worship. You give up entertainment for a period when you know it's in your community. What we also know is if you do these things, it will pass. You will beat it, but it is a tough thing to do.
So you're putting a lot of responsibility on individuals. At the same time, you're asking governments, healthcare systems to do their part. What are you looking for them to do? I noticed that the Director General of the WHO said that some governments today have had alarming levels of inaction.
So again, governments, we ask to really, really support their health workers and their hospitals and look at their capacity. So it's not simply about the teams who are currently working in intensive care. You need backup. You need to think about how you can provide the next team, because this is going to take a tremendous amount of work. The severe form of this disease leads to respiratory failure, and to survive it, you often need ventilation, and that ventilation can go on for weeks. If you are on that ventilator, the next person who also needs help, where are they going to go? Meanwhile, also to look after somebody at that level of critical care requires a team of nurses, doctors, other people, ancillary workers, ambulance workers, people working very, very hard for very long periods of time in personal protective equipment. So we are asking an enormous amount of our health workers to get through this. So to stop that, we need to slow the number of cases that develop so that when people do get sick, and there will be people who get very sick, there will be the capacity to look after them.
And for people who are starting to panic, which some are, what is the message?
Well, the message is don't panic, but it's understandable that you have the sense of fear. Fear of plague, fear of disease is an innate human fear. We have fear to protect ourselves from the unknown, from something that is a threat, but it also makes you make very bad decisions. So listen to the advice, go to trusted sources. You have some of the world's top brains in science in your country. You've got excellent advice from the CDC, from the NIH, also from the World Health Organization, also from excellent media outlets like PBS. Use those sources, learn, get knowledged up, and help everybody else in your community. Look at the vulnerable and see what you can do for them as well.
Dr. Margaret Harris with the World Health Organization, WHO, thank you very much.
That's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Now, I'll throw in two quick thoughts because I do have to get ready for the Wednesday evening worship service here at Victory Baptist Church, where I'm currently at. Two things. One, it really bothers me to hear President Trump act like 4 weeks ago, no one knew this was going to be a problem. Are you crazy? I don't know how else to say it. Are you crazy? Some of us have been talking about this for a very long time. As soon as it started spreading, I don't even know how many weeks ago I was already saying this should be classified as a pandemic. It already reached the criteria of a pandemic. It was an epidemic. It began to spread. It was present on different continents, multiple countries. I was already saying it should already be classified as a pandemic. I thought they took forever to actually classify it as that, and I thought they should have already done that. There were plenty of people who were concerned about this a long time ago. The fact to act like, well, 4 weeks ago, nobody knew anything about it. No, that is not true. That is not an accurate description. More than 4 weeks ago, plenty of people were like, "Hey, this is pay attention." The problem was people were like, it's no big deal. The flu kills more people, and just act like it was no big deal. Well, that's on the people who acted like it was no big deal. You should have been paying attention. You should have been looking around. You should have been listening. You should have been reading. You should have been paying attention. And if you weren't, then that's on you. And America is way behind. That's how come we can't test. That's how come the numbers in America are currently so low. We're not testing people. Our testing numbers are way down because we don't have the ability to test. Once we start testing, the numbers are going to go up. So right now there could be people with coronavirus infecting who knows how many people, and nobody knows if they have it because they're not being tested. So that's because we're not prepared. We're not ready. So yeah, we're this whole thing is really frustrating. And I don't know if you caught it. She said we may have to give up some things like worship. Make this very clear. Christians may have to give up worship like coming to a building, but worship, the preaching of God's word, should be able to continue with the use of technology. They're shutting down colleges and doing, online teaching. Church should be well equipped. The technology is easily available, not that expensive. Churches can get a microphone and get the ability to live stream, use that technology, and pastors can sit in their office. They can bring sermons. They can bring devotional messages. They can bring information. They can do discipleship. They can teach. That pastor can go up to an empty church, turn on the computer, grab the microphone. He can preach 3 sermons, 4 sermons, 5 sermons, preach. I mean, there's nothing stopping that. So the church should not allow the coronavirus to stop the preaching and teaching of God's word. And the church and Christians can be a source of accurate information. The church should not be the place spreading misinformation, lies, conspiracy theories, and other wacky, crazy ideas. However, sadly to say, there will be many Christians and churches who will get caught up in exactly that. And I will have to say, this is the time when we have a global pandemic going on. Those who are part of the charismatic world that teaches that healing is guaranteed because of what Christ did on the cross, and they say by his stripes we're healed, and they interpret that to mean that healing is guaranteed here and now, not a glorified body when we get to heaven. But they believe in a glorified body, but they're talking about healing being guaranteed right here and now. That theology, this is the time to look at anyone who believes that theology, who goes to a charismatic church to teach that theology and say, okay, now, are you going to repent of your false theology? Because you can't put it into practice because your church is not sending out teams of people, raising people from the dead and healing people from the coronavirus. No, you are not, because your theology is a lie. And I know that makes people mad when I say that, but I hate charismatic theology telling people that healing is guaranteed when people suffer and die every single day. And yet there's those charismatics on TV claiming, oh, we're raising all these people from the dead and this person's being healed and this person's being healed. And then when you look for proof, usually none is to be found, or you find out that it's fraudulent. So here's an opportunity to at least confront that entire theological system. You're not healing people. People are dying. You have a global pandemic. Now you can either put up or shut up. And I wish your theology would shut up, because it's incorrect. It's hurt who knows how many people. And it's just not an accurate. Your theology does not correspond to the reality that we see. All right, I know that's going to make a lot of charismatics mad, but here's what I would say. I hate your theology. I hate your theology. I hate your theology. But I love you enough to tell you I hate your theology and try to tell you don't believe in something that is filling you with false promises, false hope, and lies that will ultimately let you down, leave you disillusioned, and you may actually come to question God. Question the theology you have been taught. It is not accurate. We have no guarantee of being healed of anything while we're on this earth. There's no guarantee. And we all know we're ultimately not going to be healed, because we're all going to die unless Christ returns. So, no, we trust in God in the midst of a global pandemic. We trust in him. We put our focus on him. We turn to him for a peace, not of getting rid of the problem, but giving us a peace in the midst of the problem. And that is where our trust has to be. All right, I think I said 2 thoughts. I ended up giving more, but just a few thoughts on this entire situation. Please pray. Please look out for one another. Please take precautions. Please think of other people before yourself. Do whatever. Just be a witness. Be salt and light in the midst of this. Let the world see that we are the ones who care about truth, that we are the ones who care about other people. Let them see us live out our Christian life in a meaningful way. All right? So something to think about. But please pray for one another. Look out for one another. And just stay informed about what is happening with the coronavirus, where you live. Know where it's at, what's going on, take necessary precautions to protect yourself, protect your family, and help others protect themselves as well. All right. I'll be back on the air in about 30 minutes for the Wednesday evening worship service. You'll be able to hear that live under the VBC podcast. So if you have the Spreaker app, have that ready to go. We'll be going live at 7 p.m. or probably about 7:05 p.m. Thank you. This concludes this special live broadcast of the Theology Central podcast. God bless.